welcome back to the 8 Ball Podcast. I'm Ryan, and today we're talking about something that sits right at the intersection of mindset and business, how things stick. We'll look at two big ideas, one from the E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber, a book I'm reading right now to help me launch my business, and then also a newsletter from James Clear, and how together they explain why some people and businesses grow steadily while others stall out. A few newsletters I want to let you guys know that I do receive that I recommend to anyone are Sahil Bloom, his email newsletter, James Clear, his email newsletter, and Tim Ferriss. They all have awesome weekly email newsletters. That's not too much. Sahil Bloom does it every day, but they are absolutely amazing. Great life advice, business advice to make you a better person. I've been reading them for the last 4 months and last 8 months. And I like to think myself as a better person than I was 8 months ago and growing. So I do recommend checking out those newsletters. Again, it's Sahil Bloom, Tim Ferriss, and James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits. So I will put those actually in the show notes for you guys to check out the links if you would like to see what those newsletters are all about, but they're amazing. And actually, I'm using one email newsletter for this podcast to tie in with a book I'm reading, The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber, Why Most Small Businesses Fail and What to Do About It. So let's start this podcast off. So opening thought, most of us start a business by working in it, doing client work, building the website, fixing the problems as they come up. But the shift happens when you start working on it, not in it. So that's what Michael Gerber calls the business development process. He really talks about it in the whole book regarding working on your business, not in it, not killing yourself with all the technical work. And as I'm building 8 Ball Consulting, I'm trying not to bury myself in technical work and burn myself out. So I'm working on the business and how the brand should present and how I want it to be perceived by you guys. So yeah, and I think it's going great, and it makes total sense when you read the book. Let's carry on. So I'm going to talk about the chapter that hit home with me the most and I thought had a lot of power, and that's the business development process of his book. He breaks it down to 3 parts that form a loop you never stop running: innovation, quantification, and orchestration. Innovation means asking, what's the best way to do this? Not just once, but every time. It's experimenting with how you deliver value, how you communicate, and how you make a client's life easier. For me, that's been trying new ways to share ideas like this podcast or the way I build audits for clients. Every new test is a rep. The segment 2 is quantification, measuring what actually works, because you can't improve what you don't measure. It's easy to convince yourself something's working, but until you track the numbers, calls booked, leads converted, retention rate, it's just a feeling, and feelings make expensive business decisions. Finally, orchestration. This is the last part of his 3 steps. Again, it's innovation, quantification, and orchestration. Orchestration is turning what works into a repeatable system, and that's where freedom lives. When a process runs the same way every time, whether it's client onboarding, weekly reports, or how you post on Google, it frees up creative energy for innovation again. You're not stuck reinventing the wheel. So the process becomes a loop. Innovate, measure, systemize, repeat. Innovate and then measure is the quantification part. Systemize is the orchestration part, and then repeat that. And that's how businesses grow and how they eventually run and without chaos. So I'm going to transition into James Clear's email he sent me and tie this into the business development process. So here's the thing. Systems alone aren't enough. They fall apart if you fall apart. And that's where something James Clear said recently that hit me hard. He wrote, many of the moments when you think, I should have handled that better, aren't about poor judgment. They're about rushing, fatigue, or skipping basic self-care. And man, that's so true. Most bad decisions don't come from lack of intelligence. They come from a tired, scattered mind. I know that firsthand, and I'm sure you all do too. The root cause of poor decisions, you can't do everything well. If your attention is scattered across 7 priorities, you'll keep making mistakes that that your rested mind would never make. Sometimes the smartest move you can make for your business is to go for a walk, get an hour of sleep, or just breathe. That's not laziness, that's maintenance. I just finished a mountain bike ride, and it was great. It was a beautiful day out today, and I needed it for my mental health. I'm much happier right now than I would have been if I didn't, and I worked here all day. And I'm doing pretty good on this podcast so far. So I think, we need to take care of ourselves. I've been going for a lot of walks lately, and they are awesome. It's therapy, and breathing too is an essential part of our biology. So James Clear also said this: lessons are unlikely to stick unless they're repeated. Behaviors are unlikely to stick unless they're repeated. Love is unlikely to stick unless it's repeated. The practice solidifies. That's the same idea Michael Gerber talked about in the book E-Myth Revisited. Repetition. You don't master a process, you practice it. And then there's that simple little equation from Navy SEAL Brandon Webb that Clear shared. Failure plus rejection plus another rep equals competence. I love that. It's not just about a personal formula. That's the equation for building a business and a healthy life. I know it might be a pain in the ass, but everyone deals with it, and we're just getting better and better every day. Failure equals innovation, trying something new. Reflection equals quantification, measuring what happened. And another rep equals orchestration, doing it again, better. That's the entire business development process in one line. You can call that the better life development process as well. Trademark Prutzman. So I'm going to talk about the fight to stay consistent. Here's the reality. Repetition gets boring, and we all know that. Reflection gets uncomfortable, and systemizing things can feel tedious. But that's the fight to keep showing up, to do the next rep, to keep refining. That's where growth lives. And it's why small wins eventually compound into something huge. So this week, ask yourself 2 questions from James Clear. Where am I rushing when I should be moving deliberately? Where am I dragging feet when I should be moving fast? Slow down where it matters, speed up where it counts, and keep running that loop. Innovate, measure, repeat. That's how you build a business and a life that sticks. And that's it for today's episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Next week, next time, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to talk about, but I'm going to change it up a little bit and think about it for the next couple days to come up with something that the people want. Not that you guys don't want this stuff, but I'm going to come up with something much better. I'm Brian from 8 Ball Consulting, helping you get out from behind the 8 ball, one rep at a time.